You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, Internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason.
Thanks for downloading the show. Thanksgiving is this month here in the U.S.
Most
it's a time where families get together and we have a huge meal and hang out. I'm doing the podcast equivalent of that, but for the whole month.
There are many different elements that
have all your favorite guests on, people who've meant a lot to the show, as well as some really cool new guests. And I'm calling it the Festival of Friendship, all leading to the Thanksgiving episode, which I call the Feast of Friendship. I have a lot of cool announcements planned all month long, and I can't wait for you guys to hear them. So make sure you spread the word, and if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the podcast right now, wherever you're listening to this. And in case you're listening on Facebook or Twitter, you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, SiriusXM, Spoke app, and anywhere podcasts are available. On last Thursday's episode, UFC Hall of Famer Dan the Beast Severn kicked Choo Choo Stew off of the show. He's not allowed to come back. And Dan had so much fun that he wanted to come back today, and we'll be making a special announcement concerning Dan's involvement with the show moving forward at the end of the episode.
With an urgent message for you.
The average funeral today costs over $8,000, but the most you'll get from government benefits is $255. How will your family pay the difference? There was a little bit of noise there towards the end, and he might have repeated a story or two, but I sure as hell wasn't going to say anything.
Up to $30,000 for a funeral and other final expenses. Peace of mind is easy. There's no medical exam. You'll have lifetime coverage, and your plan can't be canceled as long as you pay your premiums. Call now for free information about our senior plans. Answer a few simple questions and receive approval right on the phone. Plus, call right now and we'll give you a discount prescription card for free. Call 800-553-8687. That's 800-553-8687. Again, 800-553-8687.
I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it I don't know.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us.
It wasn't my kid's perfume. It wasn't my wife's perfume. None of us knew what was going on, and I asked her about it. And she said the scent in the house was the spirit of a woman who used to live
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today.
And as long-time listeners know, this is the house I grew up in. My dad used to live here,
it's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank account, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
No.
the less you know about me, the better.
Sometimes riders feel lost, unsure why a passage may not be working.
Right. You realize
it takes another set of eyes
TV
to help us nurture our riding into full maturity.
Yes,
At Black Wolf
you're on a
Editorial
show called
Services,
Surprise.
we strive to enable riders to develop and grow, offering manuscript critiques and line edits through a mentoring editorial style. We also offer assistance in generating a rider's bio for your websites. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services, visit blackwolfeditorial.com.
How dare you challenge my immortal throne? I'm a father of the gods. Put your daddy on the phone. Baby Odin could beg me for a truce, cause when Zeus lets loose, I'll put your cross-dressing neck in a noose. I'm like Medusa, I'll stone a motherfucker if he looks at me wrong. I'm a bull getting bitches with my swan song. I'm on point like Poseidon's trident. Rhymes cooler than the frosty balls of old times. Allow Thor to retort, you shape-shifting rapist. I get a taste of the Scandinavian greatness, brought forth by my rage and thunderstorm force. Cause I don't get nice, I get Norse. Holla at your boy and we'll fight it out. But keep your ass guard up, I Ragnarok the house. You Tom kiss your sister, that's grosser than a gorgon. I'm the thunder down under nailing Natalie Portman. Who would ever worship someone as abusive as Zeus is? You're ruthless to humans, your crew is like the clash of the douches. Ruling over the Greeks, of people weak and fright. I'd spit in your face, but you'd probably like it. Only a mindless fool would knock the fathers of philosophy. My Greeks built the bedrock of democracy. With astronomy, they charted out the movements of my kin. All the pinks are Mount Olympus and me the kingpin. Let this sink in, I'm about to rain on your parade. Easy trigger finger quicker with the bolts and Usain. Your history, I'll be the first to put it in writing. MC Hammer just got struck twice by Greek lightning. Rain, old man, this is hardly a drizzle. You couldn't give the women in my homeland a sniffle. You can keep your astronomer. I'll sail with the conquerors for thousands of kilometers, discovering the continents. I'm alpha dog dominant, you can't beat me. I will drop you like Greece's GDP. Send you deeper underground than the depths of your Hades. Now make like your daddy and swallow my baby. You think the underworld scares the ruler of the sky? You're joking. Loki must have written your lines. By the time I finish whipping you with wits and rhymes, you'll need a ladder for your ship, cause a Viking goes down. Your glory days are over. Your Oracle should have told you. Kick your wrinkly dick back in your toga like Opa. Here, take these drachma for your eyes. When you get to River Styx, tell your three-headed bitch I say hi. Who won? Who's next? You decide.
Want to contact the show? Send an email to jason@wedon'thavecookies.com or call 929-266-9342 and leave a voicemail.
All right, we're back, and joining me right now is none other than UFC Hall of Famer Dan the Beast Severn. Dan, you got your nickname from legendary NFL player Jim Brown. Can you tell me how that happened? Was he at a fight one night and saw you out there, or is it something that he said to somebody else and it just got back to you? How did that nickname come about?
Well, actually, Jason and I ended up meeting Jim Brown for the very first time, I believe, at UFC number 4. And then again for another couple shows. And in his words, he said, Dan, when I first met you, I did not think that much about you because here you show up wearing a sports jacket and a tie, and you're wearing glasses. And you are rather soft-spoken, and you speak rather intelligently. So he did not think all that much of me. And he says it was like watching Clark Kent morph into Superman. He goes, you take your sports jacket, your tie, and glasses off. He goes, you climb in this cage. He goes, and you basically kind of come unglued. He goes, how in the world are you capable of turning it on like this? And I'm thinking, Jim Brown is asking me a question like this. This actually, I got rather giddy in the process because, I was in high school and I was watching him as he was still playing football. And here he is. He's a NFL Hall of Famer. And in my opinion, probably one of the most punishing running backs ever in the history of the game. He didn't run around people. He ran over people. And he retired actually at a young age. But it took, I think, 2 other individuals almost an additional decade of playing time just to beat his record. Had he played for just 1 or 2 more seasons, I doubt if any human being would have ever broke his record. To get the ring name The Beast, in his closing statements, he said, well, like when Dan Severn first came on the scene in UFC 4, he was just a wrestler. He did everything in his realm of knowledge for amateur wrestling, and he came up a little bit short in UFC number 4. But in UFC number 5, he's out there, he's punching, he's elbowing, he's kneeing, he's so aggressive, he's like an animal, he's like a beast. And thus, Dan the Beast Severn, it was branded right then and there.
Well, I heard on a podcast with one of the friends of the show. The podcast is called Answers for Real Men with Coach Arnie. You were explaining the acronym that you made for the Beast. Yes. Can you explain that to my listeners?
Yeah, the ring name, I'll say that the ring name The Beast is great for drawing attention. Anyone that really knows me growing up knows I'm just I'm like a gentle giant. But Dan the Pussycat Severn doesn't sell tickets, but Dan the Beast Severn does. Okay, it's frightening. It's so I had to come up with something, an acronym there that I could feel comfortable and I could live with. So I sat down actually with a piece of paper and pencil and just started coming up with, okay, what can I come up with? So the word THE stands for Dan Severn. I'm a teacher, humanitarian, and I'm an educator. And my message to young people is beast. To believe in yourself, to educate yourself, to adjust your everyday attitude, to study hard, and then to teach others, because you can't take it with you. So share in the wealth of knowledge.
I like that.
And a lot of it, it comes from different aspects right there, because, even in the biblical terms, if I give you fish, I feed you for the day, but if I teach you how to fish, I feed you for a lifetime. So again, I just take different excerpts that make sense to me, but common sense is not very common anymore. I think we addressed that in the previous email, but on a daily basis, I'm reminded more and more, and I've met a number of people that they're not exactly setting the world on fire with their IQ.
Well, on your last appearance, you talked about joking with Big John McCarthy prior to the fight starting. Was there ever a moment inside the cage during a fight that made you laugh?
Well, it's John is very professional. First time I met John was standing inside the cage just before doing a match, and John's very professional. He comes over to the corner and he speaks to the competitor, the fighter first, and he goes through his entire spiel, and at the end of the spiel, he hits you with the old, are there any questions? And he'll answer with a question, and then he turns away. Well, this is my first time going through this. So he gets to the point, are there any questions? Well, I can't think of nothing. And as he's turning away, something just pops into my mind, and I simply just blurted it out. I go, well, where did all that money go that my parents paid for piano lessons? And he said he heard it. But when he turned back to look at me, he figured it could not have come from me, because here I have my game face on. It's just no way it could have came on me. Well, the second time, because it's an 8-man tournament, you're in the cage 3 times. So the second time he comes on, I'm prepared for the stick there at this point in time. He comes through, he goes through the same verbiage, and he gets to that line, are there any questions? And I looked right at him. I said, John, I said, I wouldn't be doing this if you would just simply give me the winning lotto ticket numbers. and literally he looks at me in this kind of this bedazzled type of look, like, this guy is nuts. He's cracking one-liners basically seconds before he's about to engage in a no-holds-barred contest that has only 2 rules, no biting, no eye gouging. And so his wife, Elaine, is the travel consultant there for Ultimate Fighting Championship at this time frame. And he tells her, well, obviously time passes on. I get to know John more. I go out to dinner with the whole family and stuff like this. They realize, no, Dan's not crazy. Dan is just very, very confident and very relaxed. There was a couple times that my blood pressure was checked and stuff like this, or I should have my heart rate. And they can't believe how calm I am, how low my heart rate is before getting ready to walk out there, and they're like going, you know, I've actually had one doctor say before, you should be sleeping with this. And I go, Doc. But the ironic part there, though, Jason, I'll see, look at that same doc. I go, I was just about 20 minutes ago. And because there's a lot of people, they'll come in and they'll see me back in my locker room, and I'll be using my duffel bag as a pillow, and I'll be just stretched out on the ground someplace, because there's no type of couches typically in your warm up areas and stuff like this. So I'll just grab a spot on the ground, lay down out there. But it's a carryover from my wrestling days, because you'd be at a wrestling tournament all day long. Your school, you leave on the school bus somewhere between 5:30 and 6 a.m. in the morning. You got to get to a place, and you got to go do the weigh-ins, and the weigh-ins might be starting around that 7 to 8 o'clock in the morning. By the time you do the pairing and stuff like this, action gets underway maybe around 9 a.m. You got anywhere from, say, 16 teams up to 32 teams that are there. This tournament is going to last up until probably 9:30, 10 o'clock. Do you finally leave this gym to travel by bus? So you've spent an entire day in a gymnasium. So I was always good about finding myself a quiet area, a corner of the gym, and I would just lay down someplace with my gym bag and use it as my pillow, and I would just simply nod on off. I always told one of my teammates, this is where I'll be. Once they start getting around this weight class, come and wake me, because I will start to prepare for my match. And the ironic part is, all of these other wrestlers, they're out there hanging out with their families, and they're hanging out there with their girlfriends and things of this nature, but they're on their feet all day, and they wonder why they're tired. Or they'll warm up, and then they cool down. And they warm up, and they cool down. And to me, it's like going, well, I'm going to warm up once, and then I will be ready, and I'll go do my thing, and then I'll go and I'll shut back on down again. I was very mechanical, very robotic the way I did things, and people just couldn't believe that I could do this and really spend very little time on the mats, because I was known as the pinning machine, and most people just knew that if you better catch the action in that first period, because most men I went against never made it out of the first period before I pinned them.
Well, you've been on the road a lot, even now. Do you have any crazy stories from the road that you can share?
Oh,
no?
Yes, probably way too many. Some that need to be censored. but yeah, I have one book out right now. It barely scratched the content that I have. I literally have over 1,000 pages that I've kept in a binder. I just know that somewhere down the road, my memory is not going to be able to recall it. So I would simply jot down just enough notes, try to throw a couple of dates onto it, and throw a couple lines to it. To give you like an example, it'd be something like Leipzig, East Germany, Russian negotiations, lots of vodka. Now there's just enough verbiage there to now I can recall an entire story that would probably last 15, 20 pages of an actual story. And people, your listeners are going to be thinking, Leipzig, East Germany. There isn't no East Germany, but there used to be.
I was going to ask you too, how did you make the transition from doing MMA and amateur wrestling and cross into pro wrestling?
It was an easy transition going from amateur wrestling into mixed martial arts. The hardest transition was going from being an amateur wrestler to being a professional wrestler, as I like to call it. Because you got to realize one is a legitimate athletic contest and the other one is a physical athletic story. Some people may or may not like it, but at this point in time, there's very few people I think that will ever say that professional wrestling a legitimate contest. Folks, if you cry on your Hulk Hogan or John Cena doll tonight, well, yeah, I'll take that burden right now. But it's a show. There are some of the most incredible athletes doing some of the most incredible athletic maneuvers without the aid of a safety net. I always tell people I've been hurt far worse in my professional wrestling career than I was in my cage fighting career. And that's hard to believe that cage fighting was safer than professional wrestling. But in one, you just have to walk out there and get results. You're not filling a window time. Whereas in professional wrestling, you're putting on a show. There's going to be an outcome that needs to happen on the company's perspective because the next pay-per-view is just 30 days away from now that we need to lead our storylines up to it. So it was really interesting to balance just different facets of my life, because even as I was an amateur wrestler, first dabbling into professional wrestling, I was still doing both. And again, that was as of the 92 Olympics. And then as 94, I jumped into the crazy world of cage fighting. So I was doing 3 different things simultaneously. And I was non-exclusive, meaning that I was the only wrestler on the WWF's roster that had no restrictions. I could work for anybody, including WCW, ECW, because they both existed at the time. And then, but I was non-exclusive to the UFC. I could work for any other cage fighting company that I wanted to. And, I was working for 35 different promoters inside the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA organization alone.
Were you ever approached by WCW?
Yes. Yeah, I was approached by Eric Bischoff, WCW, and actually even did a visitation with them. I think I was first contacted by WWF, then WCW, and then basically I think once WWF caught wind that WCW was in contact with me, the deal was put together. But we were, just to give you an idea, we were in negotiations for probably close to a year because I did not want exclusivity. I was looking at a 2-year contract at best. I mean, it was. I signed a 2-year contract, but I signed a 2-year limited contract.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you about was when you were in the WWF, you were managed by a man named Jim Cornette. He's come up on this podcast a lot. One of the guys who comes on here was best friends with him for over 40 years. And there's been a lot of stories about him, especially lately. What was your experience like with him?
Oh, great. I mean, Jim, I'd say Jim was a very protector of myself and a big advocator of, pushing me to do more, or I should say pushing the creative team to do more with me. There was one time that, again, I'm there for one of my dates there with the WWF, and they want you to get there way earlier than what you need to be. But here I am in their makeshift cafeteria, and I'm there, and I've got my planner, and I've got my cell phone. I'm just there working on whatever I'm working on. And Jim comes in, and he's frustrated, and he's kind of blown off steams and stuff like this. He goes, Dan, he says, this creative team, they don't have a clue as to what to do with you. And he goes, you're the greatest thing to ever happen to professional wrestling. You're a wrestler who can wrestle. He goes, you're not going to sit out there and just cut promos and flex and stuff like this. You're actually going to take people down. You're going to discombobulate them. And he really was, he really looked out for my best interests.
Well,
I can't say, I mean, at the same token, I was a fan of his because he was quite the character. I used to see him in his younger days when he had the tennis racket all the time, the manager with the tennis racket. And, you could just see, he always had this grin on his face. He really did like the professional wrestling business. And the more he talks about it, you can see the grin that gets even broader and broader on his face. He's living that moment. And it's great to see someone that has that type of enthusiasm and enjoyment and passion for something.
Yeah.
There are other people inside that creative team that, oh God, this is just a job. And those people should have been doing something else.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm getting an echo. Do you mind turning the speaker down just a little bit? I'm sorry.
I don't know how to turn down my speaker in the first place. Remember here, Jason, I'm happy that I can turn the computer on and off here right now. Here, I don't touch any of the. You're like, well, I don't do nothing.
Okay, I'll try to speak a little quieter. Maybe the problem's on my end. Maybe I was just talking too loud.
No, he's a great guy. He did things with me on definitely on 3 different separate occasions. When he was heading up Ring of Honor. He sent a couple of his guys, and he himself came out to my training facility. He was blown away by what I had here in Coldwater, Michigan. He just said this is the most unique place he has ever seen in his life.
You mentioned your book earlier. It's called The Realest Guy in the Room, The Life and Times of Dan Severn. How can people get a copy of that?
I'll explain more on that probably on one of your later interviews.
Was there anything that you'd like to promote before we go?
Go to my website page, and that's just simply www.danseverin.com. DanSevern.com. Severn is spelled S-E-V like Victor, E-R-N like Nancy. DanSevern.com. Rest assured, I'm not done. I'm still involved in professional wrestling. I'm still involved in mixed martial arts, different types of levels. I'm still doing professional wrestling matches. I'm still involved in mixed martial arts. I run my own company. And rest assured, the guy that in my timetables, I started amateur wrestling in 1969, was teaching by 71, won my first national title in 72. By 1976, I'm the number one high school recruit at my weight class, and I've got the GPA to go anywhere I want inside the United States.
Wow.
Of which I choose Arizona State. Let's just jump 2 decades later. By 1996, I'm the number one cage fighter in the world. So to go from 69, 71, 76, 96, here it is 2017, I had a 20-year career cage fighting. I doubt if anyone wanted to do that again. I still do professional. I started even professional as the oldest rookie ever. In a nutshell, I have over 100 state, national, and or international titles and or records to my credit. There is not another human being that's close to me. It sounds like being really braggadocious. I go, no, I'm just stating fact. There will never be another human being that will have come close to what I've done. And I am not done. I'm about to write my next chapter. And then even after the next chapter, I expect to write the next chapter after that because I plan on being around for quite some time yet.
And there is something that I would like to announce, and that is from now on, Dan will be the bailiff on the martial law episodes, and I'm proud to welcome him to the We Don't Have Cookies family.
Well, that's right. I will be the bailiff, and what I say, well, I should say whatever you say, I will follow through and carry out.
That sounds good, Dan. I want to thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on there, Jason, as well.
Well, that's it for us, everybody. Please go to WeDon'tHaveCookies.com. While you're there, you can get all the contact info to send an email or leave a voicemail, links to the Facebook page so you can like that, places to subscribe to the show. All the archives are right there, everything you need. It would also help a lot if you clicked on the Get Involved tab at the top of the page. You'll find ways to help the show, most of which are free. The easiest way to help the show is spread the word, so make sure you tell your friends. I want to thank you for downloading the show. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you Thursday.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
This guy is nuts.